여러분 안녕하세요. 좋은 아침이에요. Good morning. 제 목소리 잘 들려요? Can you hear me well? 제 목소리 잘 들려요? Bonjour, 샬리님. 엑토르님 안녕하세요. 칼리 라이카님. Good night. 밤이에요. Is it night time there? 티치님 안녕하세요. 시원님 안녕하세요. 샬린님 안녕하세요. 안사리님, UK 안사리님 안녕하세요. 카일라님 안녕하세요. 시원님 들려요. 들을 수 있습니다. We can hear in English. Talking about the possibility. It's possible to hear you, but in Korean it's weird. When somebody's voice is being heard well without you really trying proactively, we use this word 들리다, which is a passive of to listen, 듣다. So we just say 들려요. It's well heard. 잘 들려요. 잘 들려요? You can hear me well? 좋아요. 루스 아이다 모하메드 다우드님 안녕하세요. Squid Prof. Yes, I can hear you well. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 오펠리님 반갑습니다. 티치님 네 잘 들려요. 카릴라님 안녕하세요. 글로리월드님 안녕하세요. No, you're not late. It's not even 9 o'clock. I just started early to check everything before we start on the actual lesson. Do I have to speak louder or is this good? I find myself speaking really loud when you're doing live, as if I'm talking to the entire class, which I don't really have to. So I'm trying to make it a little softer so then it's not hurting your ears. Call me 아이다. 아이다님 반갑습니다. 킴벌리님 안녕하세요. 마시미타님 안녕하세요. Did you miss something, Gloria World님? No, we're just saying hi. 안녕하세요. 김벌리님, yes, I can hear you. 좋아요. 들려요. 엑토르님, 안녕하세요. 좋아요. You can hear me. 마리카르세프리아노님, how would I call you? Good morning, good morning, good morning. 카릴라님, 오케이, 잘 들려요. 좋아요. Loud and clear, good. Miracle-님, hello, I just want to ask what is the coverage of this lesson? We will be talking about pronunciation rules and practice pronouncing mostly beginning level words or words you'll encounter these days pretty often. Here, I put it on the bottom of the screen, pronunciation. Adventurous Amadeus. 안녕하세요. 티치님, it's a good voice compared to my boss trying to teach him. I hope I sound better than your boss. Bosses never sound good. 마리카님, okay. Perfectly? Yay. 잘했어. 제시카님, 안녕하세요. 미카엘라님, 안녕하세요. How's everyone? It's Friday. Are you working? Who's at work? 집이에요? Are you at home? 일해요? Are you working? 멜라니님, 안녕하세요. 멜라니님, I sent you a message on Patreon asking about your Instagram username, so check my message. Housekeeping in the middle of saying hi. 아가테님? Is that how I would say it? Hello, teacher. 안녕하세요. Glory World님, so I'll get you late today because my network is not well. 죄송합니다. 괜찮아요. Okay. So if you are a little late today, we'll understand. 히든보이님, 안녕하세요. 집이에요. 루야나 or is it 루자나? 루야나, I would guess. But tell me. 집이에요. 엑토르님, you're waking up. 일어나고 있어요. I just woke up not too long ago. I look swollen. Working. 아가테님, 일하고 있어요. 카를라님, I set my alarm for 9 o'clock. My kids at online classes and me attending your class. Oh, studious morning there. Hi everyone. 멜라니님, okay. I'm working at home. 집이에요. And 일하고 있어요. 집에서 일하고 있어요. 안녕하세요. How are you, teacher? 저는 괜찮아요. I'm doing well. Good morning. Good morning. How can we say hello to you? 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. 카디자님, 안녕하세요. 제시카님, 집이에요. 시원님, 저는 집에 있어요. We change 다 ending to 어요, 아요 ending, which we will study next week as well. 집이에요. 아가트? 오케이, 아가트님. 제클린님, 안녕하세요. 자스민님, 안녕하세요. 안겔님, 안녕하세요. 아니에요, 안 늦었어요. You're not late. I turned it on like 5 minutes early to check everything, the microphone, camera, and connection and everything. So you're not late. Howdy, y'all. 안녕하세요, 라이언님. Gloryworld님, well, 눈치 was in stay with me. Did you watch my video yesterday? 눈치, the very Korean word, 눈치. It was interesting. Was it Subramanianim commented on Instagram saying in Tamil there is exact same language, so it was interesting to learn that. 강희님, 인드라님, 안녕하세요. 아직 늦지 않았죠? 아니요, 안 늦었어요. 안녕하세요. 일하고 있어요. 티치님. 미라클님, 선생님, do you have part 1 and 2 of this pronunciation saved in your YouTube channel? Part 1 was Korean consonant. Part 2 was Korean vowels. And today it's pronunciation rules because sometimes words are not pronounced as they're spelled. So that's what it is. If you watch consonant and vowel, you can learn pronunciation of each sound. If you want to check that out. 하르시님, 안녕하세요, 누나. 안녕하세요. 아침 먹었니? 아침 먹었어요? Did I eat breakfast? No, I'll eat after this. 그리스에서 안녕하세요. 그리스 지금 추워요? Is Greece cold too in winter? I'm so over winter, 여러분. How about you? I'm ready for spring. 빨리 봄 오면 좋겠어요. I hope spring will come soon. 미라클님, I see. Thanks, teacher. I am in intermediate class, but I still want to learn pronunciation. 마르코님, 안녕하세요. 그리스 봄이에요. 아가트님, what time is it where you are? It's 3 p.m. in France. 프랑스는 3시예요. I'm on the east coast of the USA. So it's 9 a.m. Mexico's hot already. I wish it was hot here now. I'm so over the winter weather. Trouble pronouncing 돼. 돼. It's always 돼. 돼요. 이 발음법을 한국인들도 배워요. Do Koreans learn? I will mention this as we go, but most of the pronunciation rules are not created purposefully by people. It just is pronounced that way. And when we talk about pronunciation rules, it's to explain why they are pronounced that way. But there are some pronunciation that's really weird, and those ones you'll have to pay a little more attention. So that's the difference. Let me turn this a little. So I'm in the middle. 네. So 9 a.m. here, East Coast. 저도요, here, same here. 봄이에요. It's Rose Festival. Ooh, that must be really pretty. 예쁘겠어요. 에르메스님, 안녕하세요. I think it's so funny and cute. Your account name is Messu, like in Korean way of calling your name. 메스야. Now, 유타님, I can never pronounce 서 and 소. That is hard because of all vowel and o vowel and also the regular shoot, right? 서, 소. 소, the second one with the o on the bottom should be rounded. 소, 소, 소. And 서 is not rounded. Malaysia, 10 p.m. Ooh, bedtime. 이자벨라님, 안녕하세요. 강인님, 자연스럽게 하구나. Yeah, naturally you are saying it just that way. And pronunciation rules are to explain what's happening. But sometimes you do have to memorize because they're weird ones. Can you recommend a Korean book for us? I think on Instagram I shared this. I'll bring them. 1 second. Novels might be a little too hard, but there are poetry books because poems shorter, and there is this 나태주 시집. Hey, this webcam's supposed to auto focus, and the poem's pretty short, so something like that. Or if you check out Korean bookstore, you'll see essay section. There are a lot of essay genre in Korean, which is shorter than novel. Or this 엄마를 부탁해, Take Care of Mom has English version. So you can read in English first and then read in Korean, which will help you understand the contents. 봄이에요. It's spring. Good for you. Not yet here. All right. So, couple things. If you look at the description under today's video, you'll see the link to my Patreon website where I posted exercise questions and audio files to practice pronunciation. So after today's class, you can use that particular post and practice more. This one's public, but I have exclusive summary sheets and exercise sheets for my patrons. So if you want to get access to all the exercise and summary sheets, please become my patron. And thank you all my patrons for supporting. This is happening thanks to them, the webcam and software, they're supporting me. So today's exercise questions are public. Anybody can access it. Check the link in the description. Okay? You are not late. We're about to start. Okay, so pronunciation is 발음, 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 발음. Okay, let's look. We talked about doing dictation to practice consonant and vowel, remember? I say let's do quick 5 words I'll say you type or you could write on your own. You don't have to type in the chat. If you have a piece of paper or notebook next to you, try to write what I say and we'll make sure we are up to date with consonant and vowels before we go ahead and talk about pronunciation. Why don't you go ahead and write down YouTube. 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 Bishista-님, good evening. I hope I'm not late. You're not late. We're just starting. Glory World-님, well, would you mind to take a live for our random questions? I am thinking about that too. I am also thinking about adding one Q&A live after next week's video. So, okay, YouTube, 좋아요. There are two ways. I see both ways. Some people, or sometimes people will say YouTube, or sometimes you'll also say YouTube. I think both work. Everyone has become patron after finishing the live show. Subliminal message. That'll be awesome. Join our Kakao group chat too. Sometimes it goes crazy with drama and stuff. Okay, YouTube. 타이포 유튜브 좋아요. Ashton님 안녕하세요. Why don't you go ahead and write or type 진짜? Who doesn't know 진짜 when you watch Korean any shows or even listen to songs, right? 진짜? 진짜야? 진짜? 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 진짜, 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 진짜? Good. How about 와인? 와인. 진짜? 진짜? Good, good. 좋아요. 와인. Give me wine. A glass of wine. 와인. 와인, 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 와인. It will be 와인. 와인. Okay. 라이브. We're doing live. Live. 라이브. 라이브 해요. 라이브. There might be delay because I'm using software and it looks like there's more delay between software and live. 라이브, 라이브. 네. So let's see. If I write it really, really carefully, it's this. 라. Right? But if I want to be a little more relaxed, you can go 라. 라. It all works. Okay, and then 이, 부. This is the stroke order. But you could go 부. 라이브. 좋아요. All right, let's start and we'll continue pronouncing and reading things. Okay. So, last consonant, like this on the bottom, is pronounced, okay, as they are in its original sounds when it's followed by 이응. 이응. So this nian will be pronounced when it's followed by iung, which doesn't have any sound when it's on top, right? So it'll carry the previous consonant. So if I were to read this, it'll be 연, Naturally, when you release your tongue, it becomes 연음, 연음. So it's just natural phenomena, right? And also within one word, which this is, you keep the original pronunciation and just link the sounds. Or particles, yes, 연음. Okay, and the particles like 은, 는, 이, 가, 을, 에, 에서, all those particles have to be attached to a preceding noun. So within that noun plus particle, you'll pronounce everything in its original pronunciation when it's one unit of independent word without spacing. Okay, I'll show you. So if I were to just read 꽃, flower, it's 꽃, 꽃, because we don't release the last consonant, 받침, and go 꽃. You just put your tongue where you will pronounce this ch and hold it there, right? 꽃. But when it's followed by 은, which has iung that doesn't have its own sound, then we just pronounce this because you're releasing it. So 꽃은, 꽃은, 예뻐요. So this is 꽃은 예뻐요. That's how this is pronounced. This is the pronunciation. Okay, so before a particle, treat them as one unit. There's no space. It's one big chunk. Okay, that's one rule. All right, so read this now. On your own, read it out loud. 먹어요. And it's weird to go 먹어요 when you're talking, right? So 먹어요. This 그, 기억, gets pronounced because this iung, zero, doesn't have any sound and just carries the previous sound. So it becomes 먹어요. 먹어요. Okay? I'll save the life. All lives are saved. Okay, so it's delicious in Korean. Look, there is iung here and iung here. Both will link or pronounce the consonant that comes before them. So this becomes, both will be pronounced and it becomes 맛있어. 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 맛, it, weird. So you'll just naturally say this and it just happens to be pronounced. 맛있어. 맛있어. Okay? Linking sound is confusing. It could be, but it's also natural to say this smoothly. You're not going to stop 먹어요. 먹어요. Because your tongue or throat or whatever is in that placement or already to make that last consonant. Okay? FEHHDGS 님, I don't know how to read your account name. Why does it sound like pu? Because if somebody puts a little more air, mu, pu, because it's same lip sound. That's why. Veronica 님, I can see 받침 while reading, but if I had to write down by ear, I couldn't. You just have to That's the thing. You have to memorize the spelling so you can match the spelling you've studied and the sound. Yeah, because by just sound, it's not gonna spell like this, right? You'll spell like this if you are just dictating. But if you memorized it, it's the verb stem 먹 plus the ending 어요, then you know it should be spelled 먹어요. Okay. 맛있어. Okay, I won't leave this slide until it's last breath of my network. 화이팅! 미라클님, teacher, can you explain what is the difference between 마시다 and 맛있다? 마시다, 마시다, it's pronounced just like it's written. 맛있다. Because I'm trying to pronounce this double shot underneath, put my tongue there, and then say 다, which makes it a little more tense. 맛있다. 맛있다. Is 나유타님 시옷 and 쌍시옷, double shot 달라요? Yes. The regular one is soft. 스. Double one is tense. 스. The parentheses, the brackets, are how it's pronounced. Yes. This is how it's spelled. This is how it's pronounced. Okay, so let's go. The last consonant on the bottom, 받침, at the end of an independent word or unit is not released. We already looked at this. I didn't say 꽃. I said 꽃 for flower, right? So put your tongue in their placement and hold it there. Do not release. That's the rule. It's delicious, also present tense. Yes, it's in present tense, the example I just gave. So flower, how would you pronounce this? Say it out loud. 꽃. We don't say 꽃. What about this? To smile, to laugh. 웃다. 웃다. We do not go 웃다. 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 But if you conjugate it and put 어요, 아요 present tense ending, then because this 이응 doesn't have any sound, it carries the sound of this 시옷. Now then it'll be pronounced as 웃어. 이응 carries the sound. Okay? But before other consonants, we do not pronounce the last consonant. Okay, so 웃다, 웃다, and then the end. 끝, 끝. So we don't go 끝, 끝. You put your tongue where to sound is pronounced, but stop there and not release it. 끝. Good. Black pen. Okay, I'll use the black pen. Sometimes in the 받침, two consonants are used side by side. How do we pronounce them? Just like 많다. I have an example with this. 많다. So each one is different. You kind of have to memorize which one is pronounced when you learn a new word. Okay, we'll talk about dictionary tip a little later too. All right, so there are these 7 consonants that are pronounced as representative of last consonant on the bottom. So 기억, 그, 느, 드, 르, 무, 부, 응. So it's all the basic ones, right? No tense ones, no harsh ones, basically. Oh, lineup's kind of messed up, but so basically, let me actually. So when it's the same tongue placement, then we choose the representative one. So for example, 그 and 크 are the same tongue placement, right? So when you see 크 on the bottom, the representative pronunciation is 그. 드 has a lot, right? So when on the bottom, if you see 트, like the end, good. Or like 시원님 just said, 빛, which is 콤, 빛. Or this 빛, which means dead. Or this 빛, which means light. All of them are pronounced like 빛, 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 because your tongue's in the same placement, basically, behind your upper teeth as this 티귿 sound. So let's read this. 굿, 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 굿. It's not good, good, goose, goose, good, good. Okay, it's all good, 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 good. Okay? When it's at the end of an independent word. That's how last consonant of an entire word will sound. I think examples will help. 빛이 나는 솔로. 난 빛이 나는 솔로. 네. So when look Miracle님's example, 빛이 나는 솔로. When we just said 빛 by itself, we pronounced it as 빛 and we didn't release it. But if it's followed by 이응, which doesn't have sound, look at the screen here, I typed it, then we pronounce it 빛이. Okay? So in a compound word, which is one word plus another word and they become a new word, right? That the compound word, you treat it like, okay, it's an independent word plus word. So we're gonna pronounce as the representative 7 sounds. Examples. This is easier. Okay. Taste is 맛. 맛. And again, we're not saying 맛. 맛, right? It's just 맛, which is pronounced as the representative consonant 드, 맛, 맛. Plus do not exist, 없다, 없다. How do you read this? Number 1, is it 맛없다? Or number 2, 맛없다? It is number 2, 맛없다. Because 맛 by itself, okay, I'll explain this, why it's not number 1, why it's number 2. Because 맛 by itself is standing alone word. It has its own meaning, right? So 맛 ends with this 티귿 underneath the representative sound. And then 없다, 없다. And that's just naturally done. Because it's hard to say 없다, right? 없다. And then when you combine them together, we keep this sound and it becomes 맛없다, 맛없다. Because it's 2 different units becoming one. Okay? Let's look at more examples so then it makes sense. 맛없다. So 맛없다, 맛없다. That's how it became 맛없다. But why is 맛있어 pronounced as 맛있어, but 맛없어, not delicious, is 맛없어? Now this is what confuses you, right? When do I pronounce it as 맛있어 and the other one is 맛없어. Yeah, 재미없다, not fun, is also the same 없다. So the rule is this, right? It's two words, 맛 and 없다, standing alone. They have own meanings. And when you combine them, you have to keep their end sound. So it becomes 맛없다. But why not 맛있어? Why are we saying 맛있어? It used to be pronounced as 맛있어. Like, I'm gonna type in the screen. Look here. 맛 by itself plus 있어, which is pronounced as 있어. So it was 맛있어. And it was used so frequently that people started perceiving it as one word instead of two words becoming one compound. And people started saying 맛있어 instead of 맛있어. But 맛없어, it's not delicious, probably it's not used as commonly, so it just stayed as two separate words becoming one compound words. That's why. Okay, so it became irregular because it was used so much. That's why we say 맛있어, 맛없어. Okay? 강희님, 이유 있네요. I said there is a reason. 그동안 하나하나 그냥 외웠어요. You just memorized. Well, that works too because it's hard to think about the rules all the time. I'm hoping this will kind of make sense to you. Okay, so within one word, including particles, because particles cannot stand alone anyway, then you pronounce the original sound. Okay? So within one word or word plus particle 은 or 이 or 을, original sound. So 꽃은, 꽃 plus 은, 꽃은. Okay? Word plus word, when it's compound word, then we use the representative sounds. So 꽃 by itself is a word. 꽃, 꽃. 이름 by itself is a word. And you put them together, 꽃 이름, flower name, and you say 꽃 이름 instead of 꽃 이름. Okay? 꽃 is a separate word. 이름 is a separate word. We're just using them together so you'll keep the ending sound, last consonant ending sound. Okay? So 꽃 이름 becomes 꽃 이름, not 꽃 이름. So they're natural phenomena, if you think about it. Mostly it's just naturally happening. And we're just pronouncing it because it's hard not to. Okay. Are you okay? Can we keep going? I think seeing more examples helps, so that's why I'm moving fast. But if you have questions or if you need clarification, please let me know as well. How's everyone following? It's okay? 네, 감사합니다. 가트님, 줄리아님, 안녕하세요. Okay, let's move on. So mostly it clarified a lot for you. Good. 책꽂이. 강희님 just asked 책꽂이, which means bookshelf. So 책 is one word. Book. 꼬지 is one word. And you can't separate 꼬지. It's one word. So within one word, we will pronounce the original sound. So it's 꼬지, 책꼬지. Okay, it's very clear so far. 카티자님, 좋아요. All right, okay, let's keep going. A lot of times It's not like linguists sat down and hey, let's make everyone's life hard. Let's make rules for everything. It's not that. It's when we are using the speech organs, it naturally happens. And linguists are trying to explain why it happens. That's the rules, right? So we're going to look at the ones that's just happening naturally. You can't help but say it. Let's look at this. 맛 plus 집. 맛, taste, 집, house, taste house. It's actually a restaurant that has really good food. Okay, 맛집이에요. And then try to say this. 맛집, 맛집. Weird. 맛집. Because your tongue's already that s, do, whatever that tongue placement, you're trying to say that word, so there's tension, and then you're saying another consonant, j. So naturally it becomes 맛집, because your tongue's there. 맛집. It's hard to say 맛집. Same thing. Home food. 집, house, plus 밥. 집. See, it's hard for me to go 집, 밥, separate. 집, 밥. So it's just naturally 집, 밥. Because I was already saying the b sound and it gets a little more air, right? 집, 밥. 집, 밥. It's hard to say 집, 밥. Okay, 멜라니님. English is horrendous for pronunciation. I agree, right? A is never same pronunciation, for example. So English speakers don't get to complain about this. Glory World님, your explanation is really so adorable. 감사합니다. Okay, so it's just natural. It's harder to not say these words in this way. Okay? Hit. 안개님, I know earlier asked about hit. So hit has that sound, right? That harsh air sound. So that affects things. Okay, let's see. Julianim, so it intensifies the following consonants. Yes, because we were already having our tongue placed for these consonants. And then we have to say this one again. So there's like tension already. 맛집. 맛집. It's just naturally happening. Okay. Jacqueline, no offense taken, right? Yeah. For English speakers. Okay. How to pronounce this? 직밥? What's 직밥? It'll be also 밥. 직밥. 직밥. But there's no word. I'm talking to Miracle-님. All right, so let's look at hit. Okay, when hit is followed by iing, which doesn't have any sound, which will carry the sound of hit, actually, hit gets so weak that its sound disappears. So, something is good. Everyone already know this one, right? So this, we do not say 좋아요. We just say 좋아요. So when hit is followed by iing, disappears in the air because it's just air. 좋아요. 좋아. 좋아. Not 좋아. It's even harder to say that, right? Make it easier. That's the bottom line of pronunciation rules. Okay? And if hit is followed by these other stop sounds, 그, 드, 부, 주, if you think about it, these ones have harsh pair, right? 그 has k, harsh version. 드 has t, 부 has pu, 주 has ch. So this harsh sound make the following or preceding, so neighboring these sounds harsh. So, 좋다, to be a dictionary form or plain level with no politeness. This is not polite. Then 좋다 becomes 좋다, 좋다. Because of this harsh air makes this following consonant harsh. 좋다. 날씨 좋다. The weather's nice. When you're talking to yourself, reacting, 좋다. That's nice. To friends, but it's not polite. To make it polite, you use this 좋아요 form. 귀여운 게, cute. When you put 개, which is not the same as dog, but it's a prefix that's used as a slang. When you want to say super good, super duper good, people put 개. But this is not polite either. It's a slang. 개 좋아. 안녕하세요. 네, 잘 지냈어요. I'm doing well. Okay? So, this. 조 plus 지. 좋지. So we don't go 조지. It's 좋지. Because this here sound, that harsh air, is making the following 지읒 harsh. 아이고, harsh. 좋지. It's good, right? 좋지. 좋지. It's good, right? You're happy, right? Okay. 수만아님, 개행복, BTS mic drop lyrics. 네, so it's used a lot these days to say super duper good, but it's a slang. Okay? Now, the drama. Psycho, but it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. How do you read this title? 사이코지만 괜찮아. 사이코지만 괜찮아. 마르코님, G at the end always mean right? No, when it's a question. When it's a question, then it's a question that's seeking agreement. You're assuming the other person will say yes. So in English, usually it's done by it's good, isn't it? Or it's good, right? Okay. So 사이코지만 괜찮아. So the bottom one, earlier there was a question, what about where there are two consonants on the bottom? Which one do we pronounce? It's case by case. It depends. But when it's ni은 plus 히읗, we pronounce ni은. Because hu is just air sound. So we'll articulate this n. And then 히읗 will disappear when it's followed by 이응 anyway, right? So we will just carry this ni은 sound. And that's why okay becomes 괜찮아. 괜찮아. 문희자님, what's difference 지 and 조? 조 is the polite form of 지. 지요. Shorten 조. It's polite. Okay. The H silent. The H becomes silent when it's followed by 이응. Because it's all throat air going away, right? So we'll just weaken it and just put casual air. Okay. Richard님, how do I say how are you? Suddenly? How are you is 어떻게 지내세요? But people don't say it. In Korean, how are you is 밥 먹었어? Did you eat? Or politely, 식사하셨어요? I have Instagram post about this. Okay, 수만아님, I have a doubt. Why can't we write 많이 as 많이 or 많이? That I can't answer. It's just how the writing is. But if you look at original Hangul when it was created, and it was more like written as it sounds like. So the spelling rule was born after, and that's why it became there is discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation. But original Hangul would have write down everything as it sounded. Okay. Okay. 수만나님, or 잘 지내세요? Yeah, 잘 지내세요 is you are doing well. Are you doing well? Okay. So let's look at this one. So when we said 괜찮아, it's just 괜찮아, right? But when we put 다 after, 다 has its harsh version, so it becomes 괜찮다. 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 Instead of 괜찮다, it becomes 괜찮다. Okay, here, can you read this? 괜찮, and then there's 흐, which will make this 지읒 harsh, so it becomes 괜찮지. 괜찮지? You're okay, right? 괜찮지? This is pretty good. This is okay, right? 괜찮지? So repeat after me. 괜찮아. 괜찮아. Polite. 괜찮아요. 괜찮아요. 괜찮다. 괜찮다. 괜찮지? 괜찮지? Okay, so that's the difference. And if 히읗 comes after these, the result's the same. These ones, when it's released, it becomes harsh because of that harsh air. Okay, so remember I posted a video with 차은우 from True Beauty. 네가 너무 좋아. 어떻게, right? That 어떻게 is spelled this way. What should I do? How should I do this? Okay. 어떡, and then there's harsh sound. So instead of 어떡해, it becomes 어떡해 because of this sound. 어떡해. 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 What should we do? 어떡해. Okay. I see a lot of other questions, but I'll stick to the ones that are relevant to the contents right now. Yeah. All right. So, 문희자님, 문희얀님, or is it 문희자님? Just wrote another word. 생각해. Look here. Here. 생각해. 생각, thought. 해, do, think. So the pronunciation, you had your tongue in that 그 sound. And then the harsh air follows, right? So it becomes 생각해. 뭐 생각해? What are you thinking? 뭐 생각해? But if you think about it, it's hard not to do this. 생각해. Weird. 생각해. It's harder. So if you just release naturally, 생각해. 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 와파님. 미안해. I'm sorry. The thing is, this 니은 doesn't have harsh version, right? So it just becomes 미안해. Cause make 니은 harsh. 미안해. 미안해. There's no consonant that's harsh version of 니은. right? 그 has 크, 즈 has 츠, but 느, 느. It's still 느. So 미안해. Okay. All right. Look at this. Just regular word how is spelled this way. 어떻게, 어떻게. So either other consonants, other stop sounds come before here, or here comes first and then other stop sounds follow. They become harsh because of that harsh air. Okay. 미라크님, I heard the guy in the tribute he said 하라네 개새끼야, but I don't know what 하라네. I can't tell just by looking at the romanization. 하라네, 하라녜, 하라니. Okay. 강희님 actually pointed this out earlier. That's why this 어떻게 and 어떻게 are the same sounds. Yes. Okay, that's exactly why. And then 해, I think is the most common final sound. Yes, because of the verb 하다, which is attached to a lot of nouns. Okay. 어떻게 and 어떻게, 렉사님, Diamond Girl님 are the same sound. Yes. 어떻게. Because who makes either preceding or following consonants that have harsh components or a harsh version, pairs, harsh. Okay? Look at this, 여러분. Cannot, 못. We don't say most, right? We put our tongue there and stop, which is 못, 못. 못. And by itself is the end of it, so the representative sound. Plus another word, 해. Compare. These ones were within one word. It's one chunk, right? This one is two words. So we will use the representative last consonant sound. So it becomes 못해요. I can't do it. 못해요. 한국어 못해요. I can't speak Korean. 영어 못해요. I can't speak English. 못해요. So it's not pronounced 못해요. It's 못해요. Let's see. How to write harsh? 할시? 네, 할시. That'll be the closest. 수마나님, like 잘못했어? Yes. 잘못했어. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I did wrongdoing. Sorry, right? So 잘못 by itself is a word. So we are ending with that representative sound, 잘못. And then 했어, which is 했. And then we're releasing 했. It's hard to do that. It carries the original sound, 했어. So it becomes 잘못 plus 했어. And because of this 흐 sound, it becomes harsh and it becomes 잘못했어. 잘못했어. 잘못 means fault. 네, wrongdoing, fault. 문희자님 못 가. I can't go. So 못 again, right? And then 가. Because of this consonant on the bottom already, we are pronouncing it, just not releasing it, 못. And then you have another consonant, 가. So it becomes tense, 못 가, 못 가. Okay. All right, let's move on. Now, nasalization. When consonants are neighboring nasal sounds, then those consonants become nasalized. And this is also natural phenomenon. And it's just explaining why things are pronounced that way, okay? Let's see. Sounds neighboring nasal sounds become nasalized in the same tongue placement. Okay? So, 기역, 디귿, 비읍 before a nasal sound will become nasalized in the same tongue placement. So, 그 is like back of your palate. So the closest nasal sound to 그 is 응, 그, right? And the closest nasal sound for it is n. So it becomes n. 부, the closest nasal sound is m. Okay, so let's look at these examples first. 학년. It's hard to say, right? 학년. 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 When we are saying a nasal sound, our nasal cavity is already closing to make that sound. So that's why it makes the previous consonant also nasalized. It's harder to say 학년. 학년 softens naturally. Okay? 시원님, 지긋지긋한, how to pronounce that? 지긋지긋 is a noun, and then you put 하, so 지긋지긋, and then 하다, so it becomes 지긋지긋하다. 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 Okay, so these nasal sounds, I see you guys are giving great examples. Look at this one. Broth. 라면 broth is so good. So soup broth, 국물. It's hard to cut 국물. Just to pronounce mu sound, our nasal cavity is already closing. And so 국물. 국물 is natural phenomenon. 국물. 국물. 강인님 is giving same example. 박물관, museum. 박물관 is hard. So 박물관. It becomes nasalized. We're getting ready for the nasal sound that's following. 박물관. 박물관. Youngest one, 막내. It's hard. 막내. Because you have to close the nasal cavity to make n sound. So we will do that naturally. 막내. 막내. Okay? So nasal. Appetite or somebody's personal taste is 입 plus 맛. And it's hard to do 입맛. 입맛. We have nasal sound coming, right? So we will nasalize already. 입맛. 입맛. Okay? All right. Look at this. L sound after iung or mium becomes nian. Let's look at the example because just saying this is more confusing. True Beauty, Korean title is 여신 강림. Okay, 여신 is goddess, 여 female, 신 god. 강림 descent. So it's hard to say 강림. 강림, because the L sound is really articulate, right? You have to do a lot of things with your tongue. So instead of 강림, it becomes 강림. Just 강림. 여신 강림. Okay? So 리을, because it's bothersome to pronounce it very clearly, we just do N. 강림. Okay? I see some examples. 강희님 악뮤, 악동 musician, 악뮤. Yeah, 악뮤 also, because it's hard to say 악뮤. It becomes soft. 아이고. 악뮤. Right? And then 입니다. 이사벨라님, that's a good example. 저는 재림입니다. So it's hard to say 입니다, right? Because there's new sound, nasal. We are already getting ready for nasal. So 부 gets nasalized naturally. It's harder to say 입니다. 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 Okay? 네. 막내 전정국입니다. Okay. All right. So another example, like 여신 강림 is hard. 여신 강림. Another example of this. Okay. This is area in Seoul. When you read this, 종로 is hard. 르 sound is so bothersome. It's too much work. So people just say 종로. 종로. So when you're in Seoul, the palace 경복궁 is in 종로, and the 광화문 거리, the big street 광화문 is in 종로, and 광장시장, the oldest traditional market where Running Man always films, it's also in 종로. So remember the name 종로. When you go there, you pronounce it as 종로. 종로. Okay, so that's the nasal sound. Same thing. It's really complicated when you look at the rules like this. So actually just hear people saying try to say it, that helps. Okay? Corona, COVID life. And you have to quarantine, right? When you traveled somewhere or when you had a contact with an infected person, your own house isolation, quarantining, it's called 자가 격리. 격리. Hard to say. 격리. 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 Still kind of hard. 격리. 자가 격리. 격리. It's to make it easier to say things instead of make it harder to say things, right? So it just naturally becomes, first of all, it's hard to say 격리. So we just say 격리, and it's still hard. So 격리, 자가 격리. Okay. Okay. 니은, neighboring 리을 becomes 리을. Do you know the dynasty name? 신라. So 신라, it's so hard. 신라. So it becomes 신라. 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 There is a hotel. This is one of the most expensive hotels in Korea. They have one in Seoul, one in Jeju. 더 신라. So when they romanize it, they do not romanize, as it's written. They romanize it based on the pronunciation. So remember this, 신라, but actually the name is 신라, 신라. And they have duty free. You'll see this too, 신라, the 신라 duty free. When you see this, remember this is actually 신라, 신라. Space heater, 난로. It's hard to say 난로. It becomes 난로, 난로, 난로. Okay? So, 니은 was followed by 리을. But you could switch it, and then it's the same. If 리을 comes first and then 니은 follows, still it's pronounced as 르. So Lunar New Year's, Chinese New Year's, 설날. It's hard to say 설날. So it's just 설날. Just continue. 설날. Okay. 시원님 gave an example. Groom, 신랑. Bride and groom, 신부, 신랑. So So 신랑 is hard to say. So it becomes 신랑. 신랑, like 신라. 강희님 also gave another example. 물리학, like humanities. 문리학 is hard. So it becomes 물리학. Okay. Last one, 여러분. Alright, so look. When the 받침, last consonant of 디귿 or the harsh counterpart, 티읕, is followed by 이 or 히, then instead of 같이, it becomes 같이. Now this is one thing that doesn't make sense, right? So kind of remember and memorize this. 같이, 같이. Let's go together. Wait for me. 같이가, you probably heard that. So remember that, and the spelling for that is 같이, 같이, 같이. So this one's weird. Remember this one. Okay? There's another one. The end, right? 아이고. Good. Have you heard in the dramas or songs, we're over. This is the end. 끝이야. 너랑 끝이야. So actually, it would have been following the rule will be 끝이야, right? Within one word, 끝이야. But that t sound, t sound, when it's followed by e, becomes 치. So you say 끝이야. 너랑 끝이야. I'm done with you. 끝이야. Instead of 끝이야. See? Okay. 마르코님 gave an example of 도지. So sunrise. 해돋이. When you go watch sunrise, it's instead of 해돋이, we don't say 해돋이. 해돋이. Say it, 여러분. Try say it. 해돋이. 해돋이 versus 해돋이. 해돋이 is almost easier to say, less articulation with the tongue. So that's why, because it's easier to say. We're lazy, you know. 해돋이. 강희님, TVN. Is that TVN slogan? 즐거움엔 끝이 없다. TVN. Right? 즐거움엔, when it comes to joy or delight, there is no end. 끝이 없다. 즐거움엔 끝이 없다. So we don't say 끝이 없다. It becomes 끝이 없다. 즐거움엔 끝이 없다. TVN. 프리스님, 끝나서. Let's look at that one. 끝나서. So it's actually 끝 plus 나다, to occur, to happen. So 끝 by itself is 끝, right? We'll pronounce like this. 끝. And then look, it's followed by a nasal sound. N. So, good. That to sound or do sound is followed by a nasal n. 끝나, 끝나. It's hard, so we'll nasalize this. So it becomes 끝나서. Nasalization. This is nasal. 끝나서. Because it's an over. 끝나서. 끝났어요, 모니카님. Yes, nasalized. 끝났어요. Okay. And then there is another word that has this same rule. You will hear this a lot from Korean people. 굳이. 굳이, there's no one English word. It's like, is it really necessary? It's like going out of my own way and have to do this? Really? Oh, it's so much work. 굳이. So we don't say 굳이, but we say 굳이.
아, 소야. 여기는 우리 반에 새로 전학
Can you hear it when I play it? Or not? When I play this video, yes, you can. Good. Okay. Then, so you'll hear this word 굳이. Really? Is that necessary? I have to go out of my way and do that favor? Oh my God, really? And you'll hear 굳이, not 굳이. Okay, let's watch it really short. 아닌데.
아, 소야. 여기는 우리 반에 새로 전학 온 친구인데 네가 교실까지 좀 데려다 줄래?
굳이 제가요?
그래. 굳이 네가.
So 굳이. Really? Is that really necessary? 굳이. So if you want to say, oh, really? Do I really have to do that? Is that necessary? You can say 굳이. Okay, so that's 굳이. Dictionary tip. So I tested with Papago on my phone, and it doesn't really show this bracket, which means pronunciation. But you could play the audio, right? And then hear what the pronunciation sounds like. That's one way. When you look up Naver Dictionary, English dictionary, when you translate English to Korean or other languages to Korean, not always does it show the bracket, which is the pronunciation. So if you find Korean word and put Korean in Korean dictionary, I say it always gives the pronunciation in the bracket. So when you look up the dictionary, you see bracket, that's the pronunciation. Okay, so that's one tip. You can find out how it's pronounced on your own. Use the Korean dictionary, put Korean word in it, and it'll show the bracket and also the audio file. So 굳이 is it necessary? It's unnecessarily bothersome, and do I really have to do it? There's no English word for this. Okay. 굳이 is pronounced as 굳이. And 마르코님, this is pronounced as 굳이. So it's different. Although this is not a word. 굳이, 굳이. Okay. You heard Gucci? Gucci will be 굳이. The tense one. 굳이. 굳이. 강희님, that's a good tip. 국립국어원 사전에 있어요. The pronunciation. If you use Korean National Institute of Korean Language, 국립국어원, their dictionary gives the pronunciation. So use the pronunciation bracket or audio file and listen to them. Okay? 멜라니님, this is so helpful, 선생님. 감사합니다. I'm glad to hear that. Again, in the description, I linked my Patreon post where I made exercise questions for you to listen and practice. Okay, so click that link and practice all those different words. I put different words from today's class. And then I also added audio files so you can check the pronunciation. Okay? That's it for today. Was it helpful or was it confusing you even more? Hopefully clarified more than confused. But that's it for today. Any questions? 타코님 감사합니다. 저도 감사합니다. Thank you for coming, everyone. This was helpful. Good. That's good to know. I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, I'm getting tired now. I'm like, can't even speak. PDF? What PDF? What are you talking about, guys? I think I missed a lot of chats too. I would definitely recommend listen to songs and people talking, and then at the same time memorize the spelling when you are learning a new word, and two and two becomes one knowledge. Okay? 감사합니다. 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 저도 감사합니다. 아라쌤 안녕하세요. You're here. 여기 계셨어요? 몰랐어요. 감사합니다, 여러분. Thank you. Make sure you do extra practice with that, and you can comment on it if you have questions on my Patreon as well. Next week, we will study the most fundamental basic ending 어요, 아요. You know, 어요, 아요, you can say everything basically in a simple form, of course, and Korean sentence structure. So basic way to make a sentence or say something in Korean. That's next week. I am thinking I will do a random Q&A. I'll receive any questions you have and answer, because you have a lot of grammar questions I saw I couldn't answer earlier. So maybe the week after next week, the final week, week 5, we can do Q&A session about any questions you have. Does that sound good? It was good. Ektoru님 will need to rewatch, but really, rewatch it too. It's a lot to digest in one sitting. Khadija님, thank you for the lesson. Thank you for coming as well. Marika Tsepariano님, thank you, teacher. Have a good day. 감사합니다. You too. Soft copy file of this lesson because we can't memorize. I'll save this live so you can rewatch it, but I don't have separate PDF file or anything. 마르코님, 시민인 하시겠습니다. That's subject honorific. For those kind of questions, let's have Q&A live, where you can ask any questions you have. Hello, are there tips for remembering Korean vocabulary? Make sentences. Don't just memorize one vocabulary and be it. Make sentences, use it, write a social media post, put it into usage. Okay, put it into use. Okay, so 감사합니다, 여러분. Thank you. 좋은 하루 되세요. Have a good day. And I'll see you all next Friday. I'll see you next week. 주말 잘 보내세요. If it's a weekend where you are, because some countries have different weeks, have a good weekend. 주말 잘 보내세요. I'm gonna go eat breakfast. 아침 먹어요. 안녕.